So my next question, Dave, is around your own journey into customer service. So you talked about how you got into Carta and now you're leading all these functions. How do you get smart about customer service? Because you, were you following certain, podcasts, blogs, talk to some people, or how do you get smart about the space? And also maybe a related question is, I always ask two questions, is this sort of, you talked about there are so many vendors in this space now, right? Like earlier it used to be these 3 or 4 large on-prem players or whatever, and now things are moving fast. Mm-hmm. So how do you cull through the noise there as well? Because that's part of, I guess, education as well. So those are my two questions about getting smart and culling through this noise. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll start with the getting smart aspect of it. I really took on CS business leadership roles about 2-3 years before I ended up at Carta. But the way that I got smart about that stuff, I had the good fortune of observing those organizations as a consultant from the outside looking in for a lot of my career. And so, when you're a consultant on a very large end-to-end project, you learn a little something about all of these different areas and what are the key issues that they're facing and how are those cross-functional issues impacting the broader organization. So you do get a little bit of a, big picture education in that matter, even if you don't know all the inner workings. And so when it came to being my turn to actually take on an onboarding organization, a support organization, I was already very familiar with a lot of these of where to look. And I had a lot of people in my network that I could just, call up and talk to them about problems to solve and how I'm thinking about things this way, is there anything that I'm missing? And so there's a lot of I definitely feel like the people who are at a point in their career where they can leverage a lot of their network, and that's absolutely a must do, right? And so, taking advantage of people in your network is super helpful. I do think doing there's a lot of material out there right now that is freely accessible, and it is easily found by doing research. And I find actually one of the ways I'm educating myself the most is doing vendor research. I mean, it's like when you're researching different vendors, they're out there on the front lines trying to solve the next set of problems. And so look very closely at what problems are these vendors trying to solve? Like, why do they exist as a business? What are they trying to solve? And for me, that has been as much my education and has really helped me with my roadmap and, vision of what I want to do as it has been just, the pure content being somewhere I can go get it.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, you learn a ton because you have discovery calls with vendors and, they ask you interesting questions that are somehow related to the problems that they're trying to solve and how they solve them.
Very interesting.
They get you to think a little bit differently. And so I think actually how you sift then through the noise of the vendors that are out there is you've got to, number one, you have to be willing to make some time for this endeavor, right? Because it is not, it does take time to do this, particularly, if you're in a decision-making role where you're going to be the one who has to make the ultimate decision. And I always like to have an active understanding of different capabilities, different problems the vendors are solving. I think having people in your organization that can also help you, put rigor around, an evaluation framework is always good. So really at the end of the day, sifting through the vendors in a particular space, you have to kind of be clear on what problems you're trying to solve and then go find the vendors to solve those problems. But I think in the course of that evaluation, you're going to run across vendors that solve other things that you weren't thinking about. And so you may have had this much that you were initially planning to solve, but it might give you a little bit wider aperture to look at your vendor evaluations. And so I think you need to be willing to be somewhat flexible if you see and be somewhat opportunistic where it makes sense to partner with a vendor that maybe has a broader vision and that is going to take maybe the current capabilities you're looking at to a much deeper level, even if they are, they purpose built for the one problem that's top of mind.